I'm Rick. I teach Japanese literature here in the Department of Asian Languages and Cultures. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the final panel of today's so far really extraordinary global forum. I want to first of all thank all of you for being here. Second of all, thank everybody who's participating for being willing to risk being arrested for performing without a license. I think we're going to have a great discussion. I wanted to say just, first of all, a little bit about this panel. It's a little bit different from the panels we've had so far. It occurred to me when I was asked to take charge of this panel that the theme of cultures of migration itself, by its very nature, demands either that we move as academics out of our comfort zone into an area where perhaps we're not so comfortable because it's not, there are no fixed boundaries. Cultures of migration is about moving beyond boundaries. So either we move out of our comfort zone, or maybe for some of us we move into our comfort zone, which is precisely that area that's between or across boundaries. This panel, I wanted to be an opportunity for us to move beyond the boundaries of our to migrate beyond the boundaries of academic culture. So to kind of inject a more explicitly creative note into the discussion. Of course, all academic work is creative work, but to take that a little bit further and be even more, to rejoice maybe in the creative aspects of thinking about these kinds of issues more directly. All I'm going to do is introduce everybody, and then I'm going to leave. I won't go that far, I'm just going over there. And then when we get to the end of the panel, from the audience, I'm going to make a loud crashing noise to indicate that everything is over. And then the people here will stop talking. That's the plan, anyway. So let me just go through and introduce everybody very rapidly. First, I'll start from our real moderator. I'm just the fake moderator. Rob Wilson, who has come here from the University of California at Santa Cruz, where he is a professor of transnational and post-colonial literatures. He's the author of, among his publications are The Worlding Project, Doing Global Studies in the Era of Globalization, and Beat Attitudes on the Roads to Beatitude for Post-Beat Writers, Dharma Bums, and Cultural Political Activists. I think you have gotten a sense already of his wide-ranging intellect and his ability to ask provocative questions, which we're going to be counting on today. We've also got Professor Suga Keijiro, who is here. Professor Suga is a critic, a poet, a translator, an all-around interesting, wonderful guy. He's got, I think, 4 collections of poetry. He's got a prize-winning travelogue or travel essay called Transversal Journeys. Incredibly wide-ranging, again, intellect and prolific translator. Then let's see who's next on I want to introduce everybody in order. Ito Hiromi, a poet, award-winning poet, also author of, what do you call them, jinsei soudang, like life consultant. If you have any problems, you're going through a rough patch, you can ask her how to solve it. She'll tell you. Translated into English by Professor Jeffrey Engels, who is sitting next to her. Jeffrey Engels is also a poet, a translator, an academic. He has a book coming out called Hizuke Henkousen, which I didn't realize until I saw it in this bio in 2015, a work of poetry that he's written in Japanese. Writing The Love of Boys is his first academic monograph. Then we've got Karen Yamashita, who is a novelist and also a professor of literature. Let me make sure I get this right. You are a professor of literature and creative writing at the University of California, Santa Cruz. She's published numerous books, including Through the Arc of the Rainforest, Circle K Cycles, Brazil Maru, let's see, I Hotel, which won every award that it wasn't nominated for. It was nominated for them and then it won. And it was nominated for also, didn't take the National Book Award, but it took everything else. There's a whole list of the awards that it received in her bio here. That's all I'm going to say. Again, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for participating. And I will be making that crashing noise sooner than you think, so talk quickly.
So I will be the first speaker here on the final panel, and I would like to thank everybody for inviting me over here and coming here to listen to what we have to say. So I will talk about this project called Tokyo Heterotopia. If the 20th century was a century of migration for various reasons, there were people for whom Tokyo was the destination. We can even attempt an archaeology of immigrants in Tokyo, and this we did in a rather strange, imaginary way. I'd like to talk to you about a theatrical project in which I participated as a writer in Festival Tokyo in 2013. Festival Tokyo is a major theatrical festival that takes place every autumn in Tokyo, and our project was called Tokyo Heterotopia. Simply put, it is a participatory, on-site pilgrimage kind of piece in which each person is required to make a tour of selected points in Tokyo with a small guidebook, this one here, and a radio set in hand. I didn't bring the radio set. The project is led by director Takayama Akira and produced by his office, Port B. Some of you may see that this name comes from the town Portbou in Catalonia, where Walter Benjamin committed suicide. Takayama started as a theatrical director, then at one point completely gave up the traditional form of theatrical piece, played on stage, and moved on to take his play onto the streets and into the crowd. What he is trying to do is making each person in his audience experience the surrounding historical reality differently by giving them a rather simple setting embedded in the actual city. What is experienced then is a personalized piece of Theaterchen, or little theater, to use Bertolt Brecht's term, or we may as well call it a molecular theater, borrowing Felix Guattari's notion of a molecular. Heterotopia, of course, is a term used by Michel Foucault to designate different topoi within the society, where the society's own logic of self-regulation and control is disrupted. These are points of heterogeneity, where alterity unexpectedly surfaces, and here is what we did. We decided to focus on the history of various Asian immigrants to Tokyo since the late 19th century. We have chosen 12 different symbolic places in Tokyo for 13 different stories, each one invested with a memory of a particular immigrant group, large or small. These histories of places are half forgotten and rarely surface, or totally unknown to the strangers. What each participant or spectator of Tokyo Heterotopia does is making a self-guided tour of these places. At each point, you tune in your FM radio and listen to a story written specially for the spot. I was in charge of the text, and I chose 3 novelists to work with me. Now let me show you who are these. Oh, this is a guidebook right here. And then these are the writers. So these are On Yuju, the girl, Taiwan-born Japanese language novelist, Ono Masatsugu on the left, whose imagination connects his native fishing village in Oita in the south of Japan to the coasts of the French Caribbean islands. Ono, by the way, is the most recent Akutagawa Prize recipient. Kimura Yusuke, who has been writing works based in the Hachinohe area in Aomori, near the northern tip of Honshu, using the region's dialect. Each of us wrote 3 or 4 stories to cover all the places. The reason I chose these writers was that all of them are sort of immigrant writers within Japan, and in the case of On Yuju, she is an immigrant, very open-minded and receptive in their imagination to the foreign and the out of place. And we wrote stories, fictions of course, based of course on historical facts, not exactly representing each immigrant group, but supplementing their experiences with narratives of various encounters, so we can reimagine the most ordinary urban spaces in Tokyo as multi-layered historical places. Let me show you some photographs so you can get an idea of what this participatory, site-specific narrative installation work was like. Okay. Now there goes the slideshow. We began by digging into the history of Tokyo Metropolitan Theater, the main venue for Festival Tokyo. This theater itself is not old, dedicated only in 1990, but was founded on the legacy of the Tsukiji Shogekijo that was formed in 1924 in response to the great Kanto earthquake of the previous year that practically destroyed all of Tokyo. The Tsukiji Shogekijo itself was the single most important avant-garde theatrical company in the early 20th century Japan, a base camp for the proletarian theater of the time, synchronizing with the international ethos of the communist movement in the 1920s. Another reason for choosing this place, Tokyo Metropolitan Theater, was to show that there was a student from then colonized Korea who participated in the Tsukiji Shogekijo and became an inspiration for Osanai Kaoru, the founder of the Tsukiji Shogekijo, to write a play that deals with Korea's independence movement. In fact, the so-called 3-1 March 1st independence movement that aims at Korea's independence from Japan originated among the group of Korean students based in Tokyo who read their Manifesto of Independence at YMCA in Sarugakcho near Ochanomizu. This was back in 1919. For us to produce Tokyo Heterotopia, foreign students from different Asian countries were inspiring groups, each of them showing a different era and story to be incorporated in this massive text texture called Tokyo. We also paid special attention to ethnic restaurants because ethnic restaurants can serve as a center for the community not only spiritually but physically, materially shaping their bodies. Thus, for example, I wrote a text for a Chinese restaurant called Keijiro, located in the Ochanomizu area. This restaurant was opened in, whoops, it's not really working. This restaurant was opened in 1911, the year of the Republic of China was established. After the China-Japan War of 1894 and 95, there was a boom for Chinese students to come to study in Japan, and the Kanda area was transformed overnight into a sort of Chinese culture latin. This restaurant, Keijiro, was opened first for those students, and the most famous of these former students was Shu Onrai, who came to Japan in 1917. Other restaurants for which we prepared texts that reveal the historical backgrounds of each group include the following. Nong Inlay at Takadanobaba in the area that is today called Little Yangon. This is a Myanmar restaurant, but it offers traditional dishes of the Shan people, one of Myanmar's ethnic minorities. Momo, located in Shin-Okubo, is a Nepalese restaurant. The Nepalese population in Japan has increased from 400 in 1990 to more than 20,000 in 2012. All of them fleeing the danger caused by the unstable domestic politics, and many of them working at Indian restaurants. Angkor Wat in Yoyogi is a Cambodian restaurant opened by a former dissident and refugee with others who came to Japan in 1981 by way of Vietnam and a Thai refugee camp. There is also an Indian restaurant named Veggie Herb Saga in Okachimachi. This is surely an Indian restaurant, but a vegetarian one and run by the owner who is an adherent to Jainism. More interestingly, this restaurant is located on the street where diamond dealers are concentrated, all owned by the Indian people who are believers in Jainism. All these may not be news to you in the US, and especially in a multicultural city like Los Angeles, but this is something radically new and heterogeneous in Japan. Asia, in different waves, come to Tokyo to stay from various places, changing the face of the megalopolis, giving it new flavors, creolizing the Japanese culture and society. Language is another very important aspect of this project. We were 4 Japanese language writers to write the background stories of immigration. You can call us what you will, saying the stories are not authentic, our representations of these groups are far from being adequate, etc., etc. But we have decided to give the project another twist by bringing in actual, different voices and sounds into Japanese. Many of the on-site texts were read by foreigners in Japanese with their own accent. A fascinating example is this mini-story read at Shahid Minar in Ikebukuro. Shahid Minar is a monument that commemorates an incident that triggered in 1952 the Bangladesh's independence movement that eventually did happen in 1971. A small group of people has been organizing Bangla New Year Festival in the area for some time, and in 2005, the Bangladesh government donated a small-sized replica of Shahid Minar to Toshima Ward as a token of friendship between the two countries. What's interesting is that the independent movement began as a language movement of the people who wanted Bengali to be the national language. Their initial resistance occurred because of the suppression of this language in Pakistan by the Urdu speakers. Taking a clue from this, I wrote a text in which the mother-like spirit of the Bengali language speaks to a young Bengali man in the empty town plaza. It is only a fantasy, of course, but the historical facts are taken into consideration and the chronology is accurate. We asked a Bengali lady living in Tokyo to read the text, and her performance turned out to be an amazing one. Please listen to it for just 1 minute. Where is it? This one. Oops.
言葉の母が見ていた。この広場に君が立っていたのを覚えています。夜明けでした。昇る朝の太陽が赤く、赤いお皿のように輝いて、コンクリートで固めた町もその時ばかりは広々とした平原のように見えるのでした。赤い花に埋め尽くされた春の平原。それはゆったりと流れる大きな川が作り出した豊かなデルタ地帯で、光と熱をいっぱいに浴びた村々が人々を優しく抱きしめ育ててくれるあふれるほどの緑と穀物の実りに恵まれた土地でした。そこは君のふるさと。でも君が離れなくてならなかったふるさと。そして離れてしまった大地の面影をこの似ても似つかない北の都会で探そうとして、君はいつも一人でこの広場に立っていました。
So, in the tour of Tokyo Heterotopia, it is the experience of different voices that matters, along with what the texts say. Quite by chance, the lady who read for us said that her father was involved in the independence movement of Bangladesh and was there at the place back in 1952 when the government suppression of the Bengali speakers killed some students. So history finds its own way to surface. A year and a half after, excuse me, a year and a half after this original Tokyo Heterotopia project, Port B released this past April an iPhone application of Tokyo Heterotopia. This time, you download the application, visit the actual spots on your own, you listen to the story, and you can keep the stories in your iPhone. For this, we have added the 13th place, which is Tokyo Chami, a major mosque with the Turkish Cultural Center in Yoyogi Uehara. Again, I wrote the text, this time with an 18-year-old non-Muslim Japanese girl. as a narrator, having a vision of the Tatar old man who used to be here to publish a Tatar language journal in Tokyo some 90 years ago. Well, my story was about this non-Muslim Japanese girl, but it was read by this Muslim Japanese girl. Now, with the Olympic Games in Tokyo scheduled for 2020, with the general oblivion of history again forced upon the city, we need an attempt of, so to speak, molecular anamnesis. We will expand the spots of Tokyo Heterotopia to more than 100 before the Olympic Games. It is a project of media archaeology along with a praxis of transnational heterology. Well, I hope you get interested in this project. Thank you very much.
I thought you do.
I'm next?
Yeah.
Oh. Right, then I'll- So thank you to the Terasaki Center and also to Michael Emmerich, who invited and created this panel, and also to my fellow panelists. Thank you to all of you, and thank you for being here. Is something coming up?
Oops.
What?
It was. Yeah,
Now what?
we saw it and it's gone.
It's not there? Should I do it again?
There it is.
Why does it go away when I?
Strange.
I don't know.
Wait, your screen is falling asleep?
No, my screen is up.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. You know what, go into the
Here it is.
screen.
But-
Oh, there it is, you're right.
But it's supposed to play.
No, you gotta go into you gotta do, what do you call it, mimic or something. You gotta go into the,
Can you fix it for me, please?
I think so.
It was working.
You know, you gotta go into the,
Well, then I can't read it.
yeah, mirror, that's what you gotta do. You gotta go into the, you know the thing where you're at, your
What's
thing
this?
where all the stuff comes up, you know,
What's this thing?
Can somebody do the mirror effect for her? That's what you need to do. It's not going out. You know, you have to go into this. I'll show you. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, you're. My unknown territory. Okay, wait. Yeah, it's a control panel. You go to systems preferences. You know where systems preferences is?
I don't
Okay,
know.
then you go to visual, screen. Where is it? Displays. Yeah, and then you gotta do.
But it's just an iPad.
But still, you got to do a mirror thing.
Oh, but it's not connected to your computer.
Yes.
Yes.
You want?
Yeah, but I can't read it.
Can you? You want to use my screen? Can you get it to me?
No.
We're out of Santa Cruz is like Apple Valley, you know. So like everything's like Apple. So we're I don't know. We're
Yeah,
probably-
but it was just there.
Yeah, I
No,
know it's there,
weird.
but why isn't it now that I play it that it's not there anymore?
Right.
Oh. Oh. I have no idea. All right.
Yeah, go, and then you can try to fiddle with it. Maybe that's not a bad idea.
No.
Do you have a flash? You can put it in here and use
I don't think this doesn't connect. Does it connect to the internet?
No. Do you want another, will it work with this? for the HTML.
こちらから先にやります。こちらから先にやれる？
私もできる。Okay, じゃあ、I start first?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me here, and then so frustrated so far because I don't understand most of the
But why
talk, and then really frustration and irritation, and then I've been living here this country for over
I know it, but I can't.
mostly almost 20 years, right?
No.
And then took 5 years to get used to the dinner table conversation. And now I understand I can manage dinner table conversation very well. But every time when I attend this kind of international kind of poetry conference or that kind of conference, I really feel that I need a hearing aid. And then I go back to Japan, then I forgot. And then, or daily life, I don't need it. So